be a very short pace lap here. Here's the grid on screen. Very short pace lap. We only start at 130R at iRacing, so we'll go through this grid quite quickly. The rest of the top 10 will be on screen. Dani Juncadella will start from 5th, our former DTM race winner. Jordan Pepper in 6th. Tom Dillman, of course, former German F3 champion, starts from 7th ahead of Lando Norris, our McLaren Formula 1 star. Antonio Felix da Costa gave us a good rundown through qualifying earlier on, but for now, he will only start from 9th ahead of Bruno Spengler. And as we cycle through the rest of the grid, Samuel on screen, as I talked about, it's only a short pace lap here. It's weird on iRacing sometimes. We'll start towards the end of the lap, and that means these tires are going to be colder than they could possibly be if we had a full pace lap. And that means the screaming talent heading into turn 1 could struggle here in terms of getting up to temperature.
You can't just make a dive bomb now that you have really cold tires, because normally when you make a move like that heading into turn 1, you want optimum grip from all your tires. At this moment, with a very short pace lap, that may not be possible. So it could be a bit of an interesting start. Some drivers going a bit cautious over there, but again, should be fun to see what happens. And the grid looks absolutely amazing. Some quality drivers up there. What happens in the next few laps, and the next few minutes in fact, should be one to remember.
So Jimmy Broadbent starting in the 30th position. We've got Nicholas Hamilton racing today, of course, as well. Brother of Lewis Hamilton, and has previously raced in the British Touring Car Championship as well. Great to see Nick out there having some fun with the boys. But going to flick over to begin your pace lap as the pace car pulls in for the moment. Final words before the start of the race, Samil.
Yeah, this should be absolutely intense. So the guys, on the front row of the grid, we have Kelvin van der Linde and Max Verstappen. What more could you ask for? These two are an absolutely deadly combination, with Nicky Katzberg in third and Augustin Canapino in P4. Canapino, of course, we saw last time out, can be a bit of a star. He's a quality driver, and as you mentioned, with the cold tires, it can be a bit tricky. Oh, we see a bit of bumping going on back there. Some cars heading into the back of each other, again on the pace lap. But right, Jonathan, I think it's about time I hand it over to you, now that we go past the chicane, and now it's time we get into the start.
So your two championship leaders alongside each other, fighting for not only a championship, but for bragging rights. Kelvin van der Linde floors it. We go green from Suzuka, for real racers never quit. Brilliant jump by van der Linde. How about Verstappen under a fire here by Nicky Katzberg around the outside. Brilliant move by Katzberg if he can pull it off, but there's no grip there on the marbles. Now we ride on board with the number 4 driver, and he's going to have to form up in the 3rd position.
Well, that was extremely audacious by Nicky Katzberg, trying to go around the outside of turn 1. Couldn't quite get it done, but again, we have just seen the kind of daringness and the boldness that these drivers can have, especially on the first lap. So van der Linde leads comfortably, Verstappen in 2nd, and Katzberg right there in P3. I think he's falling back just a little bit, and he seems to be under a lot of pressure by Canapino and Dani Juncadella at the moment.
Your top 10 have not shuffled at all. They're all in the same positions they started with. Slight contact in the back of the pack as drivers got a bit argy-bargy, but here we head to the hairpin for the first time. Not the best overtaking spot in the HPD. We see a few cars running off the racetrack there at the exit of Vector 2. Now we've got a car around as well. It's the car 7 of Bruno Spengler.
Oh my goodness, we see cars flipping around over here. We expected some crashes in the first lap, but not at the hairpin. As we take a look at the replay, Bruno Spengler, the 2012 DTM champion, is definitely involved as we ride on board with him past the 2nd deck now, onto the AstroTurf. So everything's alright by now, as we see the car ahead just spraying in a bit of dirt. And what happens here? It's the apex, and boom, he gets turned around from the back.
Yeah, so somebody running a bit hot into the hairpin, and that's Bruno Spengler's day done. Oh, as he slips. We can laugh because it's virtual racing, but I'm sure Spengler won't be pleased with that, of course, to begin his event here from Suzuka. But now we will end the first lap, and it looks like Max Verstappen is in the lead. He's made his way past Kelvin van der Linde for the first time, so we'll try and keep track of where that occurred. He's ahead of van der Linde, and this is important for the championship, as we discussed. Van der Linde potentially up the inside, forces Verstappen out of the way. Well, actually, he bullies him out of the way there, and that drops Verstappen all the way outside your top 5.
Max Verstappen being hit, and as we take a look at the replay, Verstappen leading this race. Of course, he made a move in the last lap in that easily identifiable orange number 33 car. Now van der Linde comes in, he senses an opportunity, uses the slipstream, and he tries to make a move. Where does he go? Does he go to the outside, inside? Van der Linde says, okay, inside is my turn. So he goes down the inside and just gets a bit too close, and boom, they touch, and Verstappen gets spun around. Verstappen will certainly be one angry driver, but now is the interesting time to see how Verstappen reacts to this. Now he bounces back from this accident to come back to do good in this race.
Yeah, unfortunately for Max, he's down into 7th, and now on the attack on Tom Dillman heading into the hairpin. You just saw that off camera there as the drivers here are all over each other on lap 2 of the event. Here they are on screen. Let's see if the Red Bull Racing driver can pull off this move into Spoon.
Well, Verstappen now on Tom Dillman. This is his chance. Goes down the inside. Max Verstappen, tremendous overtaking. Can Tom Dillman fight back? Not quite. Verstappen is sliding around and he spins off the track. Max Verstappen on his very own spins off the spoon curve. He's doing it very, very hot. Made a good move on Tom Dillman. And guess what? He is spinning out and he's lost a few positions.
So he's down into 9th now. It was a brilliant save by Max, but a huge mistake that cost him. The incident by Atsej Kirchhoff from Race Control, he's one of the best sim racers in the world. He's managing this event. That incident between him and Van der Linde is being under investigated. So Max will certainly not be pleased with that, but Atsej's having a look. And as they end the second lap, Van der Linde's only got a 1/10 lead here on Nicky Katzberg. The fight for P1 continues as Katzberg searches for that advantage.
But Katzberg tried to sell a dummy over there to Van der Linde, but Van der Linde said, you know what, I'm not falling for it this time out. As we now see Katzberg trying to close in a little bit on the technical section of the track. This is the S's, and back there we are seeing the drivers closing up a little bit. Canapino now just 3/10 behind Nicky Katzberg. Jonathan, this is getting really intense.
Yeah, it certainly is. Here they head through Dunlop. Keep riding on board with Katzberg. Let's have a listen to him. So time absolutely worse there. We'll have a listen to him later on as the camera switches, but well, now we ride back on board with him. Let's have a listen now through the hairpin. Well, the producers love me, don't they, Samil, as we go back on board. I love an onboard shot, but brilliant to see Katzberg, just the way he monitors and modulates the throttle through the hairpin. He's very smooth.
You have to really do that because these LMP2 cars, you just put a little bit more of the throttle input and you can spin out. The power in these cars is incredibly high and it's very, very easy to spin out in too much acceleration. Now, Max Verstappen on Richard Verschoor. Dutchman to Dutchman. 130R, this could be the chance. Using the slipstream Verstappen, where does he go? Outside or inside? Verstappen waits. He waits a little bit. Verschoor goes to the outside. Verstappen could see a chance. He goes down the inside. Max Verstappen makes the move on Verschoor. Easy as you like, and Max Verstappen moves up a place. So his second fight back, his fight back volume 2, you could say pretty much, after he spun out against Dillman as well, is beginning, and Verstappen is slowly but steadily starting to make up places.
Yeah, this is awesome for Max. And whilst one Formula One driver makes up positions, he actually started from second, don't forget, Verstappen. He dropped down after some contact with Van der Linde, and then on the same lap with a mistake at Spoon Curve. So he's trying to make amends for an unfortunate start for our 8-time Formula One winner. For our other Formula One competitor of Lando Norris, he's actually outside the top 10. He's all the way down in 14th. And issues for Norris at the beginning here. Now, we might have had something happen off camera, but certainly Norris, who started from 8th, I'm not sure where the issues happened, because I do remember up until the hairpin, Samil, he was in that 8th position.
Yeah, Norris, of course, an incredibly talented and popular driver as well. And I think he would have a bit of experience in these LMP2 cars because all he touches, Lando Norris going extremely wide there. He hits another car and he's bouncing around like a tennis ball, Lando Norris. What's happened here?
And it looked like the driver ahead, that might have been Christopher Miles, just ran a bit too deep into Degner 2. Here's the replay. Let's have a watch. So that's Chris Miles ahead of him.
Oh, no.
Oh, and then you see it, Samil. Norris really had nowhere to go after the mistake, and then it just caused basically a pinball effect.
Jonathan, I guess we've jinxed it. We spoke about Lando Norris just a bit too soon, and just as we did, he had a major accident. And yeah, far from ideal for Lando Norris. He's a good driver. He has experience in these LMP2s as well. Not exactly this very car, but remember, he drove in the LMP2 category at the 2017 24 Hours of Daytona. So he knows the LMP2 category. It will be interesting to see how he fights back, because of course, Verstappen and Norris both having major incidents, and both the Formula One stars now need to fight back. As we ride on board with Nicky Katzberg, Could this be his chance? He's not close enough, and is he? Oh, he goes really, really close there. Heading into turn 1, brakes extremely late, and now he's on the tail of Kelvin van der Linde. So this could have been an opportunity for Nicky Katzberg, but just not close enough. A good move into braking over there by Katzberg, but again, this could be a chance heading into the hairpin or perhaps even the chicane if he's good enough.
Now, we talked about drivers faring well in the real world in the LMP2, but Guido van der Garde today has had some issues at the start here, and he's dropped down to essentially last place there on the racetrack. He's running down in 30 seconds, so we'll keep a track of him, of course. Norris officially a DNF as he pulls off the racetrack, and that's going to be critical for the championship. He was third coming into Real Racers Never Quit here for round number 6, but like you said, Samil, keep track of this battle for the leaders. It's van der Linde ahead of Katzberg. Canapino behind in third. Let's not forget Dani Juncadella, who gets very tail happy there.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the comments are writing that, yeah, bald Lando maybe isn't as fast enough as the full head Lando, but we'll see about that. Maybe race 2 fares him a little bit better. But now we see a lot of battles not really happening at this moment. People are going single file. So this is, let's say, in a game of cricket, you could call this the middle overs, where the play just kind of settles in. And we aren't seeing a lot of action, but towards the end, when these drivers start to attack a little bit more, maybe then we can see a lot of battles. We saw a good, interesting fight there, good, interesting scrap for P3 between Augustin Canapino and Dani Juncadella. But these guys are spaced out a little bit as well. A 1 second gap between Juncadella and Canapino at the moment. But again, it's been a good race so far, and we can expect a lot of fireworks towards the end as well. As we now ride with the top 3. This is van der Linde from Katzberg, from Canapino, from Juncadella.
Here they go into turn number 1. Boy, what a great shot as they scream into the first corners here at the Suzuka International Racing Course. You know, iRacing has done a thrilling job with this circuit, Samil. It's been on the service for quite some time, but it just looks so beautiful here.
It is an absolute classic Suzuka. The shot of the cars going downhill into turn 1, I think it never ever gets old, and especially this shot as well, past the curves as well. And well, Suzuka, in my opinion, it's a very, very good track to learn your driving with. It's very technical, it's very fast, not enough straights over here. I mean, of course, the back straight being an exception. But with these kind of technical corners, you can really master your driving over here. Once you learn driving on this very track, and of course, it is home to a lot of training academies in Japan, you can be a very, very good driver. The kind of corners that you have over here, it can definitely help you be a really fast, really technical, and really smart driver elsewhere in the world as well. Now we see a battle between the 2 green cars. It is car number 9, this one. I'll quickly get back to you about who that driver is, but we see some good battling going on between 2 green cars and a black one. So who is that car over there?
That's Richard Westbrook ahead in this train.
Westbrook, yeah.
And he's right ahead of Neil Verhagen. And Dennis Marshall is behind them, of course. They're 3 very quick talents in the real world of motor racing here. And it's a very striking green livery, isn't it, on that front car of Richard Westbrook?
It really is, and it just makes them a bit more distinct. And oh, we see the guys getting a bit more closer there. Westbrook just goes a bit outside. Good racing between all these 3 guys, as you see a few of them closing up. This could turn out to be really, really fun. 3 really top talents in sim racing heading out against each other as we now go past 130. Oh, they touch, they go side by side, and there's contact.
Oh, Jesus.
My goodness, Jonathan, that is absolutely incredible.
No, I'm not sure there if Neil Verhagen kept it out of the wall. That was very close, but that was an incident at least 300 kilometers an hour as they headed through 130R, and surprised he kept it out of the wall, actually. There doesn't seem to be much damage to that HBD LMP2 car, and he's going to continue away, although with tires that are quite scrubbed up here, and right behind him here, it's Rene Rast versus Jimmy Broadbent. Broadbent around the outside and into the gravel, and possibly into the wall.
Well, this is the kind of battle that you really want to see. Sim racers versus real racers. Rene Rast, of course, being a legend of the DTM, and Jimmy Broadbent, he was going side by side. He was trying to put a very, very incredible move around the outside, but sometimes the heroics don't work, and Jimmy Broadbent heading into the gravel. Not exactly ideal for Jimmy Broadbent, but being a good driver, he can make up some ground in the next 4 laps.
I'm sure he'll be laughing at that. For anybody keeping track of Jimmy Broadbent, he's also, of course, streaming this race. We know Max Verstappen, Lando Norris certainly do a lot of streaming too. We've had some other drivers as well get on board in terms of streaming as well. So check them out, of course, in your own time. No Stoffel Van Dorn today, but he's been streaming in recent weeks. He's been very popular amongst the service. Had a cold bump draft, and I think it was James Baldwin from Veloci, where he just didn't bat an eye, didn't even change emotion. It was quite hilarious if you watch that clip.
Stoffel Vandoorne, of course, he's ice cool, literally a flying Belgian, you could say. Not an Iceman as such, but yeah, Vandoorne is a tremendous driver, driving, of course, for the Mercedes EQ Formula E team. But Vandoorne aside, we're seeing quite a few good battles. The leaders have spaced out a little bit, Van der Linde pulling ahead a little bit. But again, in the back, we see some cars trying to use the draft, trying to make sure that they get a good run into turn one so that they can make a good move. We are now looking at Nicky Katzberg in second place. He's a good driver as well. Falling back a little bit from Van der Linde, but of course we still have 3 laps left to go, and this could be a good chance for him. And Katzberg, of course, in car number 4, well, he's dropped down to P4. What's happened to Nicky Katzberg over here? He was P2 a while ago, and there seems to be some issue going on with Nicky Katzberg, so hopefully we can get a replay and see what's happened to his race.
Well, the good news is, as it said at the bottom of the screen, his dinner reservation's cancelled, so he'll make the end of this race, but certainly some issues at the moment for Nicky Katzberg, who was on the attack from Kelvin van der Linde for the lead. So we'll try and figure out what's going on for Katzberg here, the Team Redline driver. But certainly not what you want with only a few laps remaining in this race. So how do you see this race playing out now that Katzberg's dropped down to 4th?
This could be really interesting because Katzberg was the guy primarily trying to attack Van der Linde and maybe go for his lead. So at this moment, I don't think it would be possible for Canapino to close in on Van der Linde. Of course, both quality drivers, but Canapino is still 1.1 seconds behind Van der Linde, and we don't really have a lot of laps left so far. So it could be possible, definitely doable for Canapino, but it would be a hard ask. Juncadella is now in P3, so I think something happened there between Katzberg and Van der Linde, if I'm not mistaken. But let's have a look at that later on. And then we have Jordan Pepper. He's doing a really good job. Jordan Pepper silently climbing up to P5. Tremendous driving from him. And Tom Dillman, as you mentioned, is in P6. But guys, have a look at this, everyone. Max Verstappen is in P7 and he's closing in on Tom Dillman. The gap shows that he's exactly 0.00 seconds behind Dillman at the moment.
Well, this isn't deja vu. This is the second time these two have gone at it.
Oh, down the inside.
Yep, simple move for the Dutchman. And this time much cleaner. So he'll be glad with that one as he fights his way into the top 6 yet another time. So good stuff from Max, but next on his radar will be Jordan Pepper, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, exactly, and they don't call it Super Max for no reason. It seems to be somewhat of a trend that whenever Max Verstappen has a bad start, he really recovers well and ends up having a good race. Just take a look at Germany for that matter. And Verstappen now on the prowl for Jordan Pepper, who's been doing a tremendous job so far. But let's see what happens here. I don't think that Tom Dillman really seems to be attacking Verstappen as much. He seems to have fallen behind a little bit, but Verstappen certainly on the prowl, and with 2 laps to go, he does have a shot at Jordan Pepper, and maybe if he's good enough, at Nicky Katzberg as well.
Now, there's a lot of people new to sim racing. I just want to inform everyone, I've been in sim racing broadcasting for about 6-7 years now, and occasionally we struggle to see as commentators what the producer might be showing. So sometimes if you see something on screen, we sometimes get a little bit of a different feed occasionally. So for the likes of seeing some different moments that have gone on, we can sometimes miss that. Even a commentary can be slightly delayed. There's always a bit of tech issues as the industry catches up, of course, through the high budget production of the real world. So that's just a quick disclaimer, because I've seen a lot of people discuss that, of course, on Reddit in the past as well. It's great to see a lot of new fans of the world of sim racing, and it's just brilliant to inform them on the understanding of how this all works.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the drawbacks of sim racing these days, but I'm sure that over time, as the technology catches up, we will be able to bridge the gap and maybe provide you with live pictures and live commentary at the same time. So don't worry, guys, if the pictures are slightly delayed, nothing to worry about, as we see a battle back there between Antonio Felix Acosta, our good friend, and Sheldon van der Linde. Only 2 tenths separating the both of them, and now look at that, they're so close to each other. Van der Linde trying to attack each other, Da Costa, I'm so sorry, past the S's. If he can make a move over here, that will be incredibly risky, incredibly daring as well. But Da Costa not giving him any room, and this seems to be the battle of the race so far.
Yeah, so Van der Linde started in 21st, and he's up 12 positions here. Now, he was quicker, so he's definitely mucked up his qualifying run. You're only allowed 2 laps, so he's definitely quicker than what P21 has gone to show in qualifying, but now he's under... Oh, he's supposed to be all over the rear end of Da Costa there. He's driven into oblivion, as it seems. Now he's popped back up on screen, and here he is on the attack on our DS Tita driver.
Yeah, this is some good racing. Van der Linde now on the chase once again. We told that turn to this hairpin could be a very, very tough place to make a move, but Van der Linde is a bit daring. Now we are heading towards the spoon. Oh, here he goes. Snap your fingers back again, and he could be back.
Well, this is the technical element of simulation racing for you. You know, this is like an engine failing or an engine starting to go. Let's hope his connection holds up. How about this defensive driving from Da Costa? A little sneaky here. Yeah. Trying to change his line a couple of times, but he'll get away with that. Just trying to break the toe.
Well, Van der Linde is such a magical driver. Not only can he produce magic on the track, he can also disappear within the races. So that's another fun thing. Where's he gone? He seems to be a bit close enough. Da Costa. Oh, here he is, right on the back of his tail. So Sheldon Van der Linde disappearing and saying, okay, I vanish and now I come back right on your tail. So he would have given Da Costa a little bit of a scare, but not too much. Da Costa, of course, a professional driver. He knows exactly what he's doing. White flag is in the air and we are on the final lap, lap 11 of 11. And at the moment it is Kelvin Van der Linde and not Sheldon in the lead of the race.
Yeah, Kelvin's driven splendidly. And he's got a comfortable advantage here, about 1.3 seconds that he's sustained for most of the event here, as we watch him on screen heading through Spoon Curve and through towards the Degners. He'll come up to the hairpin, which, can we sign a petition, Samil, for everybody to change the name of the hairpin to Kobayashi Corner?
Ah, yes, definitely. That will be memorable. Of course, a small token to an incredible driver who's given us so many memories in his few years in F1. But again, let's take a look at Van der Linde leading in that distinctive blue car. Seems a bit hard for Agustin Canapino to close in. The gap has been virtually the same, around 1.2 seconds, for ever since Nicky Katzberg fell down to 4th place. But this has been a tremendous drive by Van der Linde, leading from the front, being incredibly calm, incredibly composed. He had a few good battles there with Katzberg and Max Verstappen, but that's what he does best. Leads the race from the start to finish and holds his nerve incredibly well. So Van der Linde doing a good job. Canapino in second as we now approach 130R and the final part of the track.
Well, I've seen 3 races now, or I've been in the commentary booth, for 3 races of Real Racers Never Quit, and it's only been Kelvin Van der Linde to win all 3. He seems like he's dominating this, much like the old Schumacher days, much like the Vettel days. It's Kelvin Van der Linde who will cross the line and win race number 6 for Real Racers Never Quit. It's Team Redline's special event here, and he will head himself onto the podium along with Agustin Canapino and Dani Juncadella. It's a virtual podium, of course, here in the world of simulation racing. For Van der Linde's championship rival of Max Verstappen, he falls short of Jordan Pepper for a top 5 position by only 0.3 of a second at the end of the day. You can see the rest of the cars across the line here at the end of the day, filling in those final spots. But you know, like I said last week, Samil, I'm disappointed these drivers aren't all piling up and having a huge crash into turn 1 now after the race. Something funny to see for sure.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing to look out for at the end of the race. As we see, as we run on board with Martin Kotrick, well, he's spinning around a little bit in that green car. As we see the drivers now disappear. Well, good race, Jonathan. It was an incredible drive there by Kelvin Van der Linde from the top. Canapino, of course, finishing in second. So that is a fantastic result for Canapino.
So let's look at So let's look at your final race. Let's look at your final race results for today's event. So it will be Kelvin Van der Linde, who wins officially here for Real Racers Never Quit round number 6. He will close in on the championship lead of Max Verstappen. Agustin Canapino on the podium. Brilliant result for him. Very underrated for today's event, along with Dani Juncadella, who's put in some consistent performances and has lingered around the top 5 for the entirety of the past 2 weeks. You saw Jordan Pepper there, the Billy racer from South Africa, in the 5th position. And he will head himself ahead of Max Verstappen, our 8-time Formula 1 winner, who had an incident with Van der Linde earlier on in the event and ended up coming home in 6th at the end of the day on a recovery drive after 2 moments in your early laps. Tom Dillman filed in behind him. Then it was Antonio Felix da Costa in the 8th position. Sheldon Van der Linde making amends for his poor qualifying performance, starting 21st, ending up in the top 10. So a good race performance from Sheldon. Rest of the top 10, it was Richard Veshaw who rounds out that 10th position. Here's the rest of the results on screen as we cycle through Samil, but good results for your top 10. Not so for these drivers outside the top 10 now. So we'd hope in this second race we have coming up in a few minutes' time that they get accustomed to this Honda performance development car.
Yeah, we saw that last time out as well. A lot of drivers not really on the A game in the first race, but in the second one, they really got their act together as they understood the car better, and then they were able to produce a better result. Good race in the end so far. Good one for Max Verstappen. Damage limitation is the word that comes to mind for Max Verstappen, because after those heavy accidents, you would have expected him to get really a low result. But considering that the championship is on the line, he got settled in very quickly and had a good race in the end. A decent one, in fact, finishing in P6. So, although his championship lead would have been cut short a little bit by Kelvin van der Linde, the damage wouldn't be as much as it would have been if he didn't have a good comeback. So Verstappen doing a decent job towards the end. Van der Linde, of course, winning this race gives him a big advantage. And let's see what's going to happen in round 2 now.
So Kelvin van der Linde will start on pole, the ADAC GT Masters champion from last year. He'll start ahead of Max Verstappen. That's a carbon copy front row, to be honest with you, with race 1. So let's see if it fares a little cleaner this time out, as the two came to incident in race number 1. Mikkel Jensen was the surprise in this second qualifying session, ahead of Lando Norris. Sheldon van der Linde dropped down to 5th, qualified a little poorly compared to race 1, but still a good performance from the BMW DTM driver. Then you can see the rest of the top 10 that will cycle through on screen. Is it weird to say, Samil, you know, Agustin Canapino and Nicky Katzberg are very quick on a simulator. To see them down in 7th and 8th is quite a surprise, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, these drivers are proper quality. I mean, they're proper class. And seeing them down there, well, it may feel a bit awkward, but it is just a reminder of the quality that we have here on display in the Redline Real Racers Never Quit series. So, just a testament to the kind of quality that the drivers we have. And for them, it is a good opportunity to show what they're made of, because after a tough qualifying session, only the best of drivers can bounce back and have a good race. It can be a bit of a mental setback for some having a bad qualifying, but for these drivers, considering how mentally strong that they are, it should be just another opportunity for them to show the world about just how good they are as drivers.
Well, here we go now. It's going to be a short pace lap. So the way it works in iRacing at Suzuka is we're going to begin the pace lap here. That's going to mean the rubber is going to be quite cold here on this Honda Performance Development LMP2 car that we're using for today's event. Of course, we have 3 races per week. Stay tuned for next week. That will be on Monday, the 6th of April, in a few days' time. That will be for more racing action in your Formula 3. One of my favorite cars on the iRacing service, Emil, and it's one that I quite enjoy jumping into the cockpit in each day. It's pretty much the daily car for me on this service.
It is quite an enjoyable one to drive as well, and thankfully for iRacing we've got so many fantastic cars to choose from, so many good cars to drive, so many fantastic tracks, laser scanned of course. So if you aren't on iRacing yet, what are you waiting for, guys?
Well, here we go. Coming towards the start of the event. Look at Max Verstappen trying to get heat into the rubber. Kelvin van der Linde is in the darker navy colored HPD. Let's watch the start of the race here for round number 6. It's race number 2 of the day.
Here we go, the pace car is in, and this is where the fun begins. Green flag, and everything is up in the air. Kelvin van der Linde leads this race from Max Verstappen. Lando Norris in P3 at the moment is getting a bit close with the other drivers over there. Max Verstappen tries to make a move, not close enough as Norris defends frantically over there back in P3.
No contact down the back of the pack, although it's getting quite close between each of the drivers here. We've got 2 by 2 down the middle end of the order here as we watch Katzberg and Canapino battle for positions. They're going to form up through the S's here to begin the race, but it's van der Linde who leads ahead of Verstappen, ahead of Norris. Mikkel Jensen down to 4th at the start, ahead of Sheldon van der Linde. Jordan Pepper down to 6th. That's your top 6 to begin this race, heading to the Degner curves.
It's been quite neat and tidy so far, and I mentioned so far because it could get a bit exciting just in a couple of moments over here as we head towards the hairpin and exiting the Degner curve. This is a very, very tough part of the track to overtake him, but as we have seen time and again, drivers aren't shy to make moves over here. Do we have anyone moving in? Not exactly, as Verstappen just closes in a little bit on Kelvin van der Linde. The last time we were here in the last race, we saw some major accidents at this very part of the track, and now we see Verstappen chasing van der Linde as we now ride on board with him.
Yeah, good stuff from Max. This is where he made that mistake on lap 2. He talked about it post-race to us. He said he bottomed out as he threw that Honda onto the curb, and now they head on towards the back straight on this mad run down to 130R. There's Van der Linde trying to break the slipstream, and the train follows behind. And the rest of the field looks like it's going to remain stagnant here for the first lap. But like I said, it's Van der Linde who leads at the end of the first lap. From Verstappen, from Jensen, Norris, the other Van der Linde, it's Sheldon, then it's Pepper, Canapino, Kautsberg, Van Thor, and Tom Dillman rounds out the top 10. Have a look at your scrap here down the top end of the order. I thought it was closer in that camera shot, Samil, but I got it completely wrong. The gap's about half a second between the two.
Yeah, they are just the gap is just growing in a little bit, but Verstappen, as we know, is a quality driver and he can close it down any moment he likes to. So he'll just maybe get a hang of the car, maybe settle in and then go for the attack. As we now see a battle going on back there. This is Neil Vergen in P2. I'm sure I've butchered the pronunciation, but yeah, he's doing a good job so far at P12. This could be a good opportunity for him to climb up the order and show what he's made of, but at the moment he is under some really hard pressure in P12 at the moment, as we head towards the technical curves.
Yeah, this is your BMW factory driver who runs very deep into Degna 1. And look at this behind as well. This is Esteban Muth, who's going to have a look into the hairpin. And on the defensive here is Verhagen. Contact between the two as well. That's going to allow Bruno Spengler an opportunity behind as well to make his way past. And a car spun around and stricken on the racetrack. Who's that? It's Antonio Felix da Costa.
Poor Antonio Felix da Costa. We just had a chat. Oh my goodness, he's bouncing around over there. What's going on? It just gets bad to worse for Antonio Felix da Costa. We had a good chat with him before the race.
So we can't see a replay of the incident at the moment. We'll try and find it for you, but we'll certainly speak to Antonio after the race if he's available. But it's an incident where, yeah, we'd love to know what happened to him, unfortunately. We're glad this isn't the real world, because that could have ended, that could have been quite a hair-raising incident for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Da Costa, of course, having a major accident over there. We spoke to him before the race and he said that he wanted to have a good one. His approach was positive and he wanted to see how far up he could get. And then this crash happened, so it all is going downhill for Da Costa. I'm not very sure if he's in the race or not yet, but that was a mighty accident. We'll tell you more about it once we see the replays, but for now, Kelvin van der Linde leading from the front, and van der Linde with a lap time of 1 minute 47.698 with the fastest lap as well.
Yep, there you go. Race is on between these guys. And again, through the Dunlop curve they go. 30 years going to have a part to play, I believe too. So, to be honest with you, Samil, overtaking won't be the easiest, but again, this is your world's best talent. It's just awesome to see, by the way. And we focused a lot on them in this race, but to see this top three at the moment of Van der Linde, Verstappen and Norris fight it out yet again for another race win. I mean, the entertainment we've got here in these Team Redline broadcasts is just absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. The quality here is certainly on the top level. As we now see the race settling in a little bit, heading into lap 3, not too much of action going on so far. But again, it could change at any moment in time as we see Verstappen gradually getting closer to Kelvin van der Linde with Lando Norris right behind him. Could be a fun one, this, when Verstappen just settles in and tries to get closer, and when he gets into his momentum and his rhythm, that is when we could see this battle between van der Linde and Verstappen truly heat up. But for Lando Norris, Jonathan, he had a pretty poor race, let's put it that way, in the last one. So far, P3 is not a bad result for him.
I think he, after we discussed post-race, it looked like he might have had a collision with Antonio Felix da Costa. Here we go, battle for the lead though as Verstappen creeps in. And as they creeping closer and closer to turn 1 and 2, they don't seem to be exchanging positions this time round. It was quite a carbon copy of race 1, isn't this? But remember last time, Samil, at the end of lap 1, it was actually Verstappen who led the race. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, so could be a bit of a road reversal in this case. Verstappen is now getting closer, inching towards Kelvin van der Linde. And as you correctly mentioned, Verstappen was in the lead the last time out. Let's not speak about what happened to Verstappen in the first race, or else we may jinx it. But again, he's closing in. Oh, look at that. Look at how aggressive Max Verstappen is getting, bouncing up over the curves, and it just shows you the kind of tenacity the man has. He really is in the mood, and he just desperately wants to get that win here, Max Verstappen.
Yeah, now, down in your mid-pack, as we watch the battle for the lead, I'm looking at the timing screens. There's a lot of close scraps. including Richard Verschoor, Dani Juncadella, of course, too. Let's not forget Christopher Mize, who's down in the 15th position. They're all in a tight... Well, here they are on screen into the hairpin. You can see how tight it is. And as I told you, Samil, I was keeping track of that off screen, and it didn't disappoint when we switched to the shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we thought that the racing would just be confined to the top, but this mid-pack is not disappointing us as well. Oh, he gets close in on the curb. Very good racing that we're seeing here between these guys. And now Jonathan, we expected the racing to be a bit dull heading into this one, considering how hard it is to pass in the LMP2s in Suzuka. But guess what? They're going completely at it as we see a couple of drivers going side by side on the approach to 130R. It's been amazing so far, hasn't it, Jonathan?
No, I like it. Brilliant car track choice by Red Lion as they head into the Casio Triangle. Very deep on the brakes is your field here as they scramble for position. This is Esteban Muth versus Neil Verhagen. We've seen a lot of these two scrap it out. And they're going to continue this battle into turn one. Slipstream battle. It's Bruno Spengler behind as well, ready to pounce on the two.
Nice.
Side by side with each other into one. Spengler also taking the opportunity here on Verhagen through the inside. We ride on board with the DTM champion. Nice stuff from these guys to keep it clean as well.
It can be a precarious situation for Verhagen at this moment because you need to attack desperately to get that position, but at the same time you need to be aware that there's a driver right behind you trying to get that place in. So the approach is going to be very, very different. Could be potentially cautious, could be potentially very active to get that position up ahead. But Verhagen in a tricky situation at the moment, and that was some incredible racing. Wheel-to-wheel racing here into turn one, and now Verhagen goes for the move down the inside, just overcooks it, and look at that! That is some proper opportunistic racing. Oh my goodness, I never expected anything quite like this at the hairpin, and Jonathan, that is magnificent.
And potentially a triple whammy here, as it looks like Rene Rast is going to capitalize on Esteban Muth. He runs it deep in the spoon curve, just keeps it on the tarmac, and nice to see these guys scrapping it out with a bit of argy-bargy. A little blood never hurt anybody. Now, whilst that's taking place, Verstappen's dropped to third. He's dropped behind Lando Norris. So issues for Max Verstappen in your lead group.
Max Verstappen now falling back. Lando Norris is in second place. We have not really a good idea about what happened to Verstappen. Really, 7/10 behind Lando Norris. It is going to be hard to catch Lando, considering that he's a pretty fast driver, full of good quality. But again, we know Max, he can be pretty fast. And Max so far has appeared to be the faster driver between himself and Lando Norris this weekend. Let's see what happens here. But there's a battle brewing up for P4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it looks close between Jensen and Sheldon van der Linde. They're coming in towards the Esther section. You can see the multitude of different lines through this first sector between the two. But the issue now is it's all about overtaking, isn't it? Because if you're, let's say, Mikkel Jensen or even Max Verstappen, if you're about 1 or 2 tenths quicker than Lando, it's just not going to be enough to make a move.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one thing getting on the tail of someone, it's absolutely another thing they're trying to get past. So this could be one of the major challenges for these drivers, as we now see a move potentially being made by Sheldon van der Linde. Not quite. He's just not close enough as Jensen smartly blocks off the line. And this is some good racing so far. I think van der Linde will be trying... Oh, he's flashing his headlights. He's saying, come on, Mikkel, make a move, get aside. And this should be fun to watch as van der Linde closes in a little bit, heading into the spoon section. And now, this should be fun. Van der Linde will be getting a whole lot of draft heading into 130R. And the question is, can he make it stay? Because 130R is a notorious corner. On the outside, there isn't really a lot of grip. But the most daring of drivers can make a move over here. As van der Linde just holds it out, potentially looking for a move heading into the chicane. As they try it, not quite, tries to sell the dummy, but Jensen quickly blocks off the line. And Jonathan, who do you think is going to come ahead on this battle?
Well, we'll wait and see. Van der Linde right now is certainly confident at this point of the race. He's trying to search for different lines of the work, trying to use the draft, so we'll see whether or not in these next few laps he can make the move. It's lap 7 of 11 now, so we're in towards the second half of the race. The thing I like now is that you can see that the track's starting to get darker. It's the beauty of iRacing's dynamic weather. The cloud cover starting to cover the sun. That means the track's going to get more grippy as it gets colder. That's the way it works on the iRacing service.
Yeah, absolutely. This could be of a good advantage to the drivers. Of course, faster lap times, colder temperatures and this could mean the drivers being even faster and potentially getting into a good flow, as we now see Jensen being chased up by Sheldon van der Linde. Look at the kind of dust he's spraying off as he heads slightly off the track. As we discussed previously, Jonathan, this track is unforgiving. If you go wide, it just doesn't leave you for free. I mean, in terms of the other tracks like we have, let's say the Circuit of the Americas or the more modern tracks like Yas Marina, you go wide and you have a whole lot of AstroTurf to go on for. So there's a lot of room over there. But in this track like Suzuka, you have gravel and you have grass. So one mistake and the implications could be really heavy.
Well, look at that on screen there, right ahead. So that was Mikkel Jensen off the racetrack. And luckily, the thing you want to do there at Spoon is you don't want to sort of bottom out on the curb. You either want to run completely out wide like Mikkel Jensen there, or you want to just obviously hit the line perfectly. And luckily for Jensen, he doesn't lose too much time as we watch. This is your top three, followed by the peloton behind, the rest of the mad scrambling pack as we head into lap 8 of 11.
And now, is this Max Verstappen closing in on Lando Norris? Yes, indeed it is. Verstappen getting closer, flashing his headlights, and this could be a chance for a move. Using the draft, where does he go? Outside or inside? Not quite yet for Verstappen, not even in the second apex of this corner. He's slowly lining Lando Norris up. It seems at the moment that Kelvin van der Linde is out of their reach, as these guys, when they scrap, they will be allowing a lot of breathing space for Kelvin van der Linde, who can just use this opportunity to get past and to cement his place as the leader of this race. Now Verstappen getting even closer, and now, Jonathan, could this be a chance for a move heading into the hairpin?
Yeah, let's have a look. Whilst this is taking place, we're hearing Verstappen lost it from behind the scenes here. We're hearing Verstappen lost it coming out of turn number 2. So, unfortunately, just due to some technical issues, we can't bring you the field, but here he is on screen. This is what I'm talking about. This is from about 6 laps ago. This is when he lost the position to Lando Norris and he dropped down to 3rd. So this is why he's dropped down from his starting spot to the 2nd position. Here he heads into Spoon Curve. And for Max, he's got a lot of work cut out for him in these closing laps. You know, the mind games I love, Samil, here between the two. You know, some of the drivers flashing the headlights, trying to get in the head of the driver ahead. The problem I have is I used to drive in World Championship sim racing. If you're looking in your mirrors too much and you see that, I'm telling you, the drivers behind can get in your head for sure.
Yeah, that is one interesting part about racing. It's pretty much like a game of chess at 300 kilometers per hour. That is so interesting because you literally can play into the mind of the other guy and perhaps force him into making a mistake. That is one of the more traditional arts of trying to get past on a tough and tricky track like Suzuka. Verstappen now closing in a little bit, using the draft as we now see him go onto 6th gear. This doesn't quite seem like a chance for him to make a move. We're currently on lap 9. Oh, he gets really close over there. A bit of slow going for Lando Norris heading into the first corner. And Max Verstappen instantly gained a lot of time heading into turn 1. He's getting closer slowly but steadily. And this could be a chance for Max Verstappen as this battle now heats up for P2. But up ahead, Kelvin van der Linde just saying, bye-bye guys. It's a good, lovely Saturday night drive for me. I'm having fun over here.
Yeah, the problem is right now, it looks like it could be a double win for van der Linde again here on the Friday. And the problem for Verstappen is he picks up a lot of dirty air here behind the McLaren Formula 1 driver of Lando Norris as they head towards the hairpin yet another time. So whilst these guys scrap, we've got battles throughout the field. Augustin Canapino all over the rear end of Nicky Katzberg. This is where they are on screen at the moment. And Canapino, again, they've remained behind each other for the entirety of this race. Canapino started ahead of Katzberg. They switched in the early laps, and it looks like Augustin just has seen the rear end of Nicky for the entirety of this race. It's not the most overtaking we've seen compared to race 1.
Yeah, it's not been as entertaining, let me call it that way. The drivers have been a lot more disciplined, a lot more stable. We kind of expected that with the temperatures falling a little bit and with the drivers getting a good idea about the car, we would see them being a bit more confident and a bit more aggressive. But certainly that hasn't been the case. That said, Jonathan, we still have a couple of laps left and it could promise for a good ending towards the end. Let's see what happens over here.
Yeah, definitely. Can be a thrilling ending to this race. They begin the penultimate lap of the race. So 2 laps to go here. Van der Linde's got a comfortable advantage on Lando Norris. It looks like Kelvin van der Linde is going to again creep in on Verstappen's championship lead. You just wait till Verstappen jumps in the F3, though. That's all he'll be saying in his head. Can't wait to jump back into a car that he's mastered. You know, I've seen a lot of world records from him. He and Atsay Kirchhoff, they drive the car a lot in their spare time. And if I'm not mistaken, the two also worked together when Max Verstappen was in Formula 3. Raced for Van Amersfoort, and he worked together with sim racer Atsay Kirchhoff, who was the sim racing coach for the team.
That is just another good insight about how much sim racing is evolving, and real professional drivers and drivers as good as Max Verstappen are actually using it as a tool to perfect their driving, and look at where they are right now. So it just shows you how much sim racing is growing over the years. And guys, if you aren't on sim racing and if you aren't on iRacing yet, come on, go get a rig, go get a setup. This is something that you'll definitely not regret. You can improve as a driver while having a lot of fun on the track. And right now, we're seeing some good racing on the track at the moment. A bit for, oh my goodness, that is one driver going incredibly wide. I'm not really sure about who that was, but that was a very leery moment for one of the drivers heading out of the Degner curves.
Yeah, not a good moment for them heading out of the second of the two Degners. You can get away with that, though. There's a slight bit of grip out there, but of course you want to be on the tarmac ideally, as we see your field here head to 130R for the second to last time through this race. It was Mikkel Jensen who pretty much killed it in qualifying. Set a thrilling lap, didn't Mikkel Jensen? And he's going to finish this race potentially in fourth if he can stay ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, who's tried every trick in the book right now to make his way past Mikkel. But on this final lap, he's not going to have many opportunities left, is Sheldon.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time to go. The white flag is in the air, and we're heading into the final lap of the race. Now, Sheldon van der Linde just closing in on Mikkel Jensen, as he has been for the entirety of this race, but it just doesn't seem to find a way past. So van der Linde getting ever so closer. There is not a lot of opportunities left for van der Linde to make a move. If he has to get something done, he has to get something done rather quickly. As we have a look at this battle, Lando Norris also setting in a fastest lap, a 1 minute 4:46.916. So it's been a good race for him so far, and Verstappen doesn't seem to be getting a move in as such at the moment. Lando Norris closely holding his second place, but Kelvin van der Linde very much in P1 as we see something going on here. Mikkel Jensen has made a mistake, hasn't he, Jonathan?
Jensen's run wide coming out of Degner 2, and he's lost a bit of traction. Luckily keeps the car pointing in a straight line. That's going to drop him down to fifth. But like you said, for the moment up in the lead, it's still van der Linde ahead of Norris, ahead of Verstappen, and Verstappen's running wide. He's going to try everything here to get the run coming out of Spoon. I'm not sure if if this is going to work right now. He's tactically using that. I think he's going to be a bit too far behind. So for Mr. Verstappen, he's going to remain in third. Here are your top five on screen. Have a look behind between Jensen and van der Linde. The battle's still on between those two, but for Kelvin van der Linde, he's going to win 2 from 2 today for Red Lines. Real racers never quit. It's the second race of the day for round number 6 as Kelvin van der Linde closes in on that championship advantage of Max Verstappen, who comes home in third. Lando Norris ends up splitting the two. He finishes on the podium in second. It's Sheldon van der Linde who heads himself ahead of Mikkel Jensen there in the closing stages. They round out your top 5 after Jensen lost the 4th position on the closing lap. And we're still racing here to close out the race down your mid-pack.
Yeah, that was some heavy weaving as we saw over there. Now a couple of drivers heading into the finish line. Oh, what's happened? Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, he's crossed the line and he's just stopped over there. I'll just come back with who that driver was. But Jonathan, not exactly the most entertaining race in the world, let's call it that way, but certainly a good one in terms of showing how fast the drivers can be.
And we can unofficially say we'll get official confirmation when we drop down and speak to the drivers post-race, but this may potentially confirm Max Verstappen as the champion for Real Racers Never Quit. He's got a comfortable advantage here on Kelvin van der Linde, even though today wasn't his day. But let's take a look first at your final race results. So there is Kelvin van der Linde closing in on Max Verstappen's championship lead with 2 race wins, but we don't know if it was enough. Unofficially for the moment, Verstappen is the champion. So let's see if that will be officially confirmed in our post-race coverage. Lando Norris split the 2, just recently shaved his hair during the week for charity. And he ends up, people said, oh, he was much quicker with hair. Well, I think that's proved it wrong in race 2. A brilliant result in the second position. Charles de Mandelinde making his way past Jensen, putting him under pressure and forcing Jensen into a mistake in the closing lap. He ends up in 4th. Jordan Pepper with a good consistent result in 6th. Didn't see much from Pepper today, but a brilliant performance from him. They had himself ahead of Katzberg and Canapino. The rest of the top 10, as you can see on screen, is rounded out by Neil Verhagen, our BMW factory driver. Here's the rest of the top 20. See a few notable names down there. Daniel Juncadella, not where we normally see him in the sim racing world, all the way down in 14th. So a race to forget for Juncadella. It all started in qualifying when he started 19th. Just mucked up his lap and didn't get the best of runs as he started in the top 10 in race 1. Wasn't the best way to cap off race number 2 here from Suzuka. We cycle through past your top 20. You see Bent Viscal in the 24th position, Formula 3 driver. Of course, Nicholas Hamilton at the end of the day ended up 26th ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, who at one point we saw Antonio turned around at the hairpin, as we unfortunately had technical issues today, and we had a lot of them, so we were unable to show you the replay of that, but it seemed that he just lost it under traction